Good evening. Let's call to order the Board of Library Trustees meeting of February 3rd, 2025 at 7:15 p.m. Excuse me. The city does not tolerate disruptive behavior in our meetings. Sunnyvale prides itself on the rich diversity of our residents. We are committed to creating a culture of belonging where members of our diverse community feel included, safe, and respected. This board meeting is considered a limited public forum, which means the board can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech. Speaker comments must be limited to the agenda item being considered by the board for consent calendar or public hearing items. Speaker comments during oral communications must be limited to matters within the board's authority, generally referred to as within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. If a speaker's comments are not related to an agenda item, the presiding officer will rule the speaker out of order. A speaker will not be ruled out of order because of a disagreement with the content of their speech. Location and online meeting details are available on the Board of Library Trustees agenda. Scan the on-screen QR code or click the language access and translation link on the meeting agenda to read and listen along in more than 50 different languages. Use the Show Captions button to view captions on Zoom. Comments on matters not on the agenda or presentation items must be submitted prior to the time I call the item for oral communications. Comments on agenda items must be submitted prior to the time I close the public hearing on the agenda item. Speakers are requested to keep their comments to the time period set for public comments for the agenda item, which will be strictly enforced. Guidelines are posted on the city's website and on the Board of Library Trustees meeting agenda. Please join me in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Recording officer, may we please have the roll call?
Yes. Chair Wong,
Here.
Vice Chair Gitakonda,
Here.
Board Member Hugh.
Here.
Board Member Hod. We have 3 board members present.
Thank you. So we'll move on to our next item, which is 24-0260 Silicon Valley Reads. Is there a staff presentation?
Yes, there is. We have Julie Moore and Lynette. Come on up.
Hello and good evening. My name is Julie Moore and I'm one of the adult services librarians over at the library. I'm going to be presenting on Silicon Valley Reads for 2025. I am happy to have with me my colleague, Lynette Yorks. She's one of our fantastic youth services librarians and she's going to be talking about our programs for children and teens. Okay, a little bit about the background for Silicon Valley Reads. It started back in 2003 and is a community engagement program. And it has an annual theme that provides more than 150 free programs each year in February and March. It started out as a one book, one community program, and it has evolved since then to involve multiple books and an overall theme. The events are all ages. They include author talks, book clubs, art and music events, community activities, arts and crafts, movies, and creative events or activities based on the theme each year. Last year, our theme for 2024 was A Greener Tomorrow Starts Today. We at the library presented 14 environmentally themed programs, and it was for patrons of all ages, and we are happy to say we had 416 attendees for those. This year, our theme is Empowering Humanity, Technology for a Better World. This theme explores the AI movement and ways in which technology impacts our daily lives and the future. The kickoff happened on January 30th, and that was over at De Anza College. They had a panel with the adult book authors were there to give a talk a little bit about their books and the theme overall. We are planning 13 programs for adults, teens, and kids, and you will find programs throughout Santa Clara County at the different libraries, as well as the schools are also participating this year and also providing programs to the kids at the schools. Okay, so these are our books. If you are familiar with Silicon Valley Reads, they usually pick a couple books each year. We have a lot of books this year. So they have picked 8 books this year. So we have 3 for adults. They are 1 nonfiction book and 2 fiction books. The nonfiction books is The Worlds I See by Dr. Fei-Fei Li. The other 2, The Mountain and the Sea, is a science fiction novel that goes over the theme. Loneliness and Company is considered general fiction or literary fiction. And we also have 5 books for kids this time. The teen book, The Infinity Particle, is a graphic novel for teens this year. Okay, so I'm going to talk now about the programs that we've got planned for adults. The first program we've got kicking it off is Zen Coloring for Adults. We've got a nice fun one. I've got some really cool robot-themed coloring pages that we're going to do for fun. After that, we are going to be viewing the NOVA program. It was a NOVA special, AI Revolution. We're going to show that at the library, kind of like something for seniors during the afternoon. After that, we have a really fantastic talk, Chinese in the Digital Age, with Thomas Mullaney. Thomas Mullaney is a professor at Stanford for Chinese language. He did a program for us in the fall that was kind of like a precursor to this, which was the history of Chinese language. And now this is going to be in the digital age. Really fantastic. After that, we've got Introduction to AI, and that's going to be presented by the technology specialist at the Sunnyvale School District. They're going to come in and do a presentation for adults, parents, and also a section for seniors that's going to include a brief demonstration of some different AI technology that people can use in their everyday lives. And then we're also going to have monthly book group, and we're going to be doing The Worlds I See, the nonfiction titles that we're going to be discussing this year for Silicon Valley Reads. I do want to give a big thank you to the Friends of the Sunnyvale Library for supporting all the supplies for the coloring program, as well as our books for the monthly book group. And I have one more program I really want to highlight. So as I mentioned, we are having a graphic novel for our teens, and Wendy Zhu is the author of that novel. She's the author and the illustrator. She's flying in from New York to give a couple presentations here in Santa Clara County over like 2 days. And one of the places that she's coming is here to our library. And we are thrilled to have her. She has put together a special program specifically for our library. It's for both teens and adults. So it's going to be intergenerational. She's going to talk a little bit of an author talk about what makes a comic in her process. And then the attendees will get to create a 4-panel comic as she kind of leads them through that process. So we are so excited to have her come do that for us. And a big thank you for Silicon Valley Reads to working with us to make that happen. Right now I'm going to pass it over to Lynette, and she's going to talk about our programs for teens.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited about Silicon Valley Reads. And so I'm going to talk about the programs for the teens. So first program is called Unpacking Artificial Intelligence for Beginners. It's really exciting because we have a teen presenter, and she is going to be talking about the basics of AI in today's world and the ethical issues that surround the use of artificial intelligence. And the special thing about this program, it's interactive with teens. They're going to learn a lot. It's very basic, but they will get to talk about ethic issues, and they'll have a question and answer session. And it is going to be led by, her name is Kashfi Middle, and she's a founder of a nonprofit organization called Together We AI. Together We AI aims to increase representation and diversity in the field of AI. So we're really lucky to have her. I've seen her speak. She does great presentations. And our next thing is going to be our family movie. It's The Wild Robot. And that is something that the kids are wild about. We have tons of the Wild Robot books. That's one of the Silicon Valley Reads books, and they created a movie on it. And so we're really excited to have that. We want to thank the Friends of the Library for providing that grant to do this movie. So we figure this is going to be a full house for this particular item. And our third is going to be the comic workshop that you just heard about with Wendy Zhu. And then our other teen program is Poetry in the Age of AI. And this one's a very special one that I'm going to go into more detail in a minute, but we have a youth poet laureate of Burlingame and Hillsborough. So I'll talk about that more at the end. So for our children's programming, we have a lot of really wonderful programs set up. The first one is going to be Dash Robot Coding for Kids. And we have our Mr. Nick, he's our STEM librarian. We do have lots of wonderful librarians, but he does a lot of our STEM programming. So I'm really excited about that. He's going to teach the kids to learn to program Dash, which is a robot, and they're going to do challenges, and they're going to learn fun coding things with this robot. And again, I mentioned before the family movie, The Wild Robot. So that's going to be another children's program that we have, and we're really excited about that. Again, thanks to the Friends of the Library for that one. And then we have, it's called LED Robot Craft. And the presenters are a group of middle school teachers, and they're called Science Smart Kids. And they're going to be combining art and science. And they're going to create a light-up robot collage featuring LED lights. So this is going to be a lot of fun for the kids to learn art and science at the same time for middle school teachers. So we're excited about that. And then we're going to do Kids Create a Robot. And this happens to be my program that I'm going to be doing. So we're going to get everyday items. We're going to have a plethora of boxes, CDs, toilet paper rolls, anything we can find around, CDs, like I said, and just a lot of different things that you will find in your household. But we're going to have them in a big room, and the kids will be able to create their version, be creative about what type of robot they want. So it should be a lot of fun for the kids there. And then one of our last items is called Build a Robot Hand. And this particular item is another STEM item. It's a STEM item, and it's just a basic guided. They're going to learn how to build this hand and do tricks. And Mr. Nick, our librarian, is going to teach them how to build this. As you could see, it's pretty fun. They'll be able to do different challenges with this easy and simple robotic hand. And he's also going to teach them probably a little bit robotics and what they need to know. So we're excited about that program. And lastly, this is what I was talking about. So this is a team program. It's called Poetry in the Age of AI. We have Poet Laureate Sierra Elman. She has a passion for both poetry and artificial intelligence. And what's exciting about her is that she has a special interest in the intersection of creativity and technology. Sierra's research study on AI and poetry was featured in Medium's list of the most meaningful stories in 2024. So this Burlingame Hillsborough Youth Poet Laureate, Sierra Elman, invites the teens to discuss, explore, and experiment with how AI affects poetry and its future. The teens will be able to analyze a poem. They'll be able to talk about Chat GPT and explore artificial intelligence and how it's going to affect poetry in the future. So we're really excited to have this special guest. She is in 9th grade. She's very advanced and she's very special. So we're really grateful to have her here for our program. Thank you. And if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Julie and Lynette. That was great. Any questions? Carter?
Not really a question, but one of the things, and I forgot which one it was. I didn't write down the note fast enough, but the emphasis was that this program was for young and old, and that they could do activities together. And I think that's such a great idea. Building up the library as a place for multiple generations to come together and take part in this wonderful community that we have here in Sunnyvale. So I really like to see that, and all these sound so exciting, and I wish I wasn't on vacation right then. So maybe next year, and it's going to be another excellent slate. So thank you again for all your work, and this sounds like a terrific slate.
Yes, and some of the programs are in February and March, so if your vacation allows.
Thank you. Vice Chair Giudicato?
Well, I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I had just question on the items which you mentioned. They say it's mostly available in the household. So do you take donations for those items for the library workshop or?
We do, but I think we're okay with, otherwise we would get overwhelmed with so many. If we put an announcement out for donations, I do believe we might just have too many. So usually within the library family, they all know to bring stuff. So I think we're going to be okay. Thank you though for that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. Some are Sunnyvale specific and a few are Silicon Valley Reads in general. So if it's out of balance, just tell me that. So we've heard about Silicon Valley Reads a lot. And we've just never really discussed, or I've never understood how the themes are chosen every year. I'm assuming it's a committee. How is that theme chosen? How are the specific books chosen?
All that is done through, all that's done through the Santa Clara County Department of Education.
Okay.
They have a committee amongst themselves where they pick the theme and the books. And then it's announced to the libraries.
Okay, great. Yeah, I happened to drive by De Anza College and I saw the sign out on the 30th that said Silicon Valley Reads. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. Once we get announcement of what the books are, do we, other than having obviously like the standard books in the library, do we make any effort to make sure that we have large print or audio versions of those?
Yes.
I love the movies. I like the graphic novels that appeals to more, but we talked about this, I think a month ago, large print and audio are one way to make it more accessible.
Yeah, so we get extra copies in regular print as well as if it's available in large print, which is sometimes a challenge. We get it in large print as well as we get the downloadable ebook and audiobook for all of the
Okay,
titles.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then your first slide said that there were 416 attendees last year. I'm curious how that compares to our pre-COVID numbers. Because we're always looking at like how people are attending programs and participation. Currently, our goal is kind of, I believe, to kind of get back to pre-COVID numbers. So I'm curious how that 416 compares to previous years and what you're anticipating for this year.
I don't remember what the numbers were, pre-pandemic numbers.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And I'm again curious just because when we look at programs, they're overwhelmingly youth and children versus adult. Is that what you're also anticipating, or Silicon Valley Reads kind of skew more adults? I'm just kind of curious from.
Silicon Valley Reads, because it gets such a large push through the whole county, is more of a split attendance.
Okay.
We find that Silicon Valley Reads promoting adult programs, we get a lot of people that are outside of our normal Sunnyvale area.
Right.
And so we get more folks. Like I do monthly book group for Silicon Valley Reads, and normally for a monthly book group, we get between 10 and 15 people, but we will get more people. This will be my largest monthly book group for adults because of Silicon Valley Reads.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll get people from San Jose, Los Gatos, different areas that want to come and check out our book group.
Okay, great. Because that leads into my next question, which is, since we're coordinating across participating libraries in Santa Clara County, we're obviously doing one book group for one of the adult books. And I'm assuming other libraries are doing book groups for the other adult books?
It kind of depends. Every library picks their own book.
Okay.
We chose the nonfiction, particularly because that is a local author. She teaches at Stanford. And so we decided to choose that book for our monthly book group. I think it's San Jose is doing Loneliness and Company, which is the novel. And Santa Clara County, because they have so many branches, they do a whole bunch of different book groups. But it depends on the library. You can choose whichever book you want.
Okay, but then in general, if I think about all the programs, again, because we're talking about all of Silicon Valley, do we coordinate with other libraries? Because we have some great programs, and I can imagine that like any child from any neighborhood city would love to come participate, and the other libraries might have some other really interesting programs.
Yeah.
So like, for example, we have Wendy Shue coming, right? But I'm assuming that'll attract people from all over. Do we advertise actively, and then do we coordinate with other libraries to advertise to our patrons that there are these other Silicon Valley Reads activities that you might also be interested in?
So internally, we promote our own programs, but then Silicon Valley Reads as a whole takes everybody's programs and does it on like their own blast through the county. So the
Okay.
Santa Clara County Department of Education puts everybody's library programs on blast, as
Okay.
well as they have a calendar of events you can click through their website where we put everything together there. And we meet with the other libraries around October once the theme is chosen. So we share ideas.
Okay,
So
perfect.
sometimes like we're doing something that nobody else is doing, but they know about it. Like I shared a program that we weren't able to make happen with Mountain View. Mountain View is going to have that over there. So there's a lot of cross collaboration and idea sharing between all the
Okay,
libraries.
perfect. That's what I was hoping for. That's great. And then one last, not a question, but Lynette, your robot hand?
Yes.
I just have to make a comment. My daughter is a mechanical engineering student, and one of her projects in her robot class was to build a hand that was essentially like a little more grip, more hand-like, but essentially it was the same thing. I just love it. You should tell the librarian who's running this,
Yes.
literally their design was you put your hand in and you grab the strings, and that's how the grip was made. So this is like spot on. There's, of course, it's like 3D printed and
Yes. So
much
this
more,
is simple for
whatever,
the
but
children.
like, but that's exactly, I mean, that's spot on with what kids in college at a conceptual level are doing to build robots.
And can you imagine what it's going to do with the young ones being able to make this and realizing, this is the future? I could create other things that are similar to this,
No,
and maybe
it's-
add to it, make it better.
Yeah, it's fast. I saw that because I remember getting a video. My daughter was like all excited and sent me a video. She's like, look at my robot hand. Look how it works. And I was like, wait, it's right here. No, that's great. I think it's going to be a great program. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other, you good? Thank you so much, Lynette. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item, which is 250261, Sustainability Initiatives. Is there a staff presentation?
There is a staff presentation. I will be presenting. My name is Shaughnessy Dunkley. I'm your Adult Services Supervising Librarian. Along with me is my colleague, Jack Nigley. He is a Sustainability Librarian for Adult Services, so we'll be talking about sustainability. I love giving this talk because I feel so strongly about libraries being sustainable. So I love sharing this with you all. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. So we'll be talking a little bit about library sustainability, some of the programs we do, as well as our collections, our partnerships, and then our next steps, because we're always looking forward. So as you can see, we believe in renewing, rereading, and returning, and that's a pretty straightforward way of how we think about sustainability as a library. We think about the community as a whole and being able to buy items for them and to share. So that's the first S of sustainability, I suppose. And all of our philosophy, oh my goodness. Our thoughts behind this are that we want to make sure that it's a really helpful way for us to be sustainable throughout the library and throughout the community. So you heard Lynette talk about the collecting TP rolls and other craft supplies. These are a couple of Teams messages that we got where some of the librarians were asking for some craft supplies, cereal boxes, and empty toilet paper rolls. And I'm so excited to show you what they did with this. For the toilet paper rolls, we have the young man there on the left making maracas. And we have the young lady there on the right making a leprechaun trap. And I just love that we were able to get these items and use them in a sustainable manner so that these kids could learn how to make crafts. And we could also show them that it's important to be able to do things, that they can, to take care of things and be sustainable. So in 2024, we also had Space Camp. And you can see that we had a large variety of the public, including our esteemed mayor, helping to paint over 300 egg carton boxes. And the young women there on the left were the ones who actually helped put this together. And I want to also call out Winnie Lamb of the Arts Commission, who helped make this happen. We made, with 300 egg cartons, a rocket. So this was shown in the library's lobby as a way to show that we're, again, trying to be sustainable. We're also looking to support and celebrate space And one of the things I really liked is that the folks, I don't want to say the little kids, the folks, made a point of putting little notes on there saying, world peace, save water. And it's just like, that's so lovely. So it was really nice to see that, their heart is going throughout the universe. So in addition to the sustainable items, we're also building sustainable skills. There on the left is a soldering group where we worked with Maker Nexus, and we had some folks come and learn how to build a simple circuit. This was a really popular program, and we're going to try to work with Maker Nexus to happen again because it's cool to be able to repair your own stuff. So that was something that we enjoyed. On the right is also, it's a repair cafe. So it's a little bit less intensive on soldering, but you learn from other folks who are repair gurus. This happened in January. We had 25 repairers. We had 120 people who were helped, and we had 230 repairs going from coffee makers to cuckoo clocks. And it was really, really impressive. So we also think about environmental programs outside the library, not just inside the library. We've worked with SUFA, and they've done environmental tree walks around the Civic Center, which is just, it's so lovely to be able to wander around the library and say, oh, I know what that is. That's great. That's a crepe myrtle. This is fantastic. So we've been very lucky to work with them. And then there on the right is the Don Edwards National Wildlife Refuge. We take field trips, bay trips over there. And this is a bird walking tour. So they walk all around the refuge, and they do some bird watching with the docents there at the wildlife refuge. And it's just really lovely to have that sort of environmental kind of collaboration between our different organizations. And Earth Day is coming up. So last year, this was the grand opening, including the City Hall, where we are built to LEED Platinum standards, which is really, really awesome. We made Olive Avenue a pedestrian mall, and we're going to do that again this year. It's going to be on April 5th. You're getting a preview of the outdoor scavenger hunt, which I stole from my colleague Jack. And so you guys are getting to see it, even though it's not ready yet. So you're getting a preview. And now I would like Jack to talk about sustainable collections.
Hello, my name is Jack Nigley. I'm the new sustainability librarian here at the Sunnyvale Public Library. I've been here 1 month, and so thank you for having me here. You'll listen to me become very nervous and babble, I'm sure, but I'm very excited to talk tonight. Thank you for having me. So one of my priorities as the sustainability librarian is to take over the decision-making process, or at least in part of the Library of Things. So when we talk about sustainability collections, that's what we're referencing. And that kind of is an all-encompassing phrase about outdoor activities, kitchen and baking items, gaming items, things that make the community more self-reliant and promote the idea of less consumption, less waste, less items in landfills. Yeah, and what else do I have? Essentially, when I'm referencing the idea of self-reliance, we're talking about patrons getting over the financial barrier of learning new skills and learning to experiment. And so we want to be the kind of interactive community hub that promotes, learning more, spending less, and wasting less. So when we talk about sustainable collection, that's kind of what we are referencing. What else do we got going on? And then the Library of Things is extending into the children's section. So you heard from Lynette, who's a wonderful part of our youth services, and they will obviously know more than I will, but we kind of want to start them young. We want them to understand that the library is a place beyond a repository for books. We want them to learn or think of learning as fun. So the Library of Things for Children has STEM items, it has building blocks, it has launch pads, everything that you'd want to, teach your child to actually have fun with and learn. And it's all free. That is kind of the overarching kind of a word that we want to get out there. We want them to borrow more, buy less, and interact with each other, have fun. And yeah, that is kind of the general gist. And then we also have an enormous amount of board games that are coming into the collection. And then again, that is just another series of items that we have, adding to the outdoors games, the hiking equipment that we have, the home improvement items that we have. Again, really trying to make people feel like, empower them, excuse me, to do things on their own and not be afraid of that financial barrier that kind of burdens so many. So yeah, that is kind of the general overview of our sustainable collections, at least that I've been privileged to encounter so far. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jack. So just to talk a little bit more, we are a community-based organization, of course, and we love working with other community-based organizations. As you've heard, we've worked with a lot of folks already. We continue to work with others, including FABMO. There's a nice picture of the wildlife refuge there in the middle. The Charles Street Gardens, the UC Master Gardeners, all sorts of places. So we continue to partner with these folks. And with Jack, we've really been lucky because he's been talking to a lot of people. So be on the lookout for lots of new programs coming for sustainability soon. So our next steps, the Climate Action Playbook was just renewed. I think you guys may be familiar with it from the Environmental Services Division. One of the things that happened is that we were able to have the library be part of it. So we are actually one of the steps, one of the plays in the playbook, including the fact that we have a librarian who was able to focus on sustainability and education. And then you can barely see it, but so we're gonna keep working with ESD about the Climate Action Playbook. And then you can see it barely, but that is our Lakewood branch sign here. Let's get ready for Lakewood. And so we are working with the Silicon Valley Clean Energy group. We have a $500,000 grant for electrification and making sure that things go smoothly over at the branch. We'll have a display showing how much electricity is being used or how it's being, I think we're gonna have solar. Please don't quote me on that, or how much is being generated. So so we're looking forward to the branch coming online really soon. So it's gonna be fun. So thank you. There's our cuckoo clock guy. I love that this happened. So thank you. And do you have any questions for us?
Thank you, Shaughnessy. Thank you, Jan. Board members, any questions, comments?
Well, thank you for the lovely presentation. I have a quick comments, compliments, I should say. I like the egg carton rocket ship you all made, 300 cartons. That's really amazing. And love the notes on it. I think that goes a long way. And welcome to Jack. So I like the idea of learning more, spending less. That's amazing. So one general question with the previous presentation and the current one. So we say STEM. I'm just curious, this is kind of STEAM too, right? It's not exact. I mean, we could also call it STEAM.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want people to feel well-rounded. And so, yeah, we're definitely including arts in there. So yeah, full steam ahead.
And about the circulation on the items, things, what is the wait time for, let's say, as an example, board games?
It depends on the board game. Currently, we have Ticket to Ride, I think has 8 holds on it, and we have 1 copy. So it's going to depend on each item. I actually looked this up preparing for this evening. We have 213 things. And the thing with the most holds on it is actually our Wi-Fi hotspot. And so there's 36, although we're getting a couple more in. So it would probably be about a month or 2 for you to get to the Wi-Fi hotspot. However, I will be candid. We have 5 sewing machines, and we have a wait list of over 100 people. So we need to be really careful about where we spend our money because we want to be able to bring cool things like a little robot dog and also get to folks to be able to sew as well.
So what would be the plan to bring in more, as an example, again, sewing kits? Is there a grant for it or?
That's a really good point. Yes, we are actually, I'm going to call out the Friends as well. We are asking the Friends to assist us in doing some budgeting for that. So we've asked for some funding there. I will be looking at grants as well to see if that's possible. And we have dedicated funds in the collection budget so that it'll definitely have money going directly to them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Board member who? No, go ahead.
Okay. All right, thanks for letting me gather my thoughts, guys. So, I'm a really big fan of seeing the board games make it now, from the start, right? To me, the Library of Things is just such an excellent example of how the library can be sustainable. And I really loved what you said, and this is something I 100% wholeheartedly agree with. A library is more than just a place for books. We all know that it's a place for community, it's a place for movies, it's a place for, puzzles and really everything. So seeing that be brought to fruition, especially with a staff member dedicated to that, wow, that's terrific. So big fan and welcome to the city. The other thing that I thought was great was, just the expanding partnerships. I only recently went over to Makers Nexus, and they have such an excellent facility there. I had no idea that that was a thing that, residents in Sunnyvale can kind of access conveniently. And I was there for an event, and other folks were like, wow, you're so lucky to live in Sunnyvale and like be close to this cool resource. And it's like, hey, and it just kind of got my wheels turning. It's like, wow, how can we have like more of that at the library, because the membership at a place like that isn't cheap, right? And of course, it's dedicated to exactly that. And when you charge folks, you can get different sorts of resources. But something that I'm excited about is the idea of getting more resources, getting more of these sewing machines, and cool skills and like whoops. Just like techniques that you're able to learn with the help of the library. And that cuckoo clock example is just so cool. So yeah, I think those were my big things. And then the other one is, I do know that some of these board games, especially Settlers of Catan, which was on the in the presentation, right, it had a little picture there. It does have a kind of more robust, like, competitive scene, and I do wonder if, it's possible to have an event around that. It's like, could there be a tournament? Because I know they do those, which is weird. I can't imagine playing that game competitively, but that could be fun looking into. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this all goes.
I'm going to give you a preview. This year's summer reading program theme is called Level Up at Your Library, and we may be having some game tournaments. Yes.
That's terrific. Just to sort of piggyback off of that, when I was in middle school, and this is years ago, but I remember there was a Monopoly tournament, and I think I was the only one that showed up. And then so I ended up getting the prize. And, I think so, right? And I think part of that's because, like, these days, right, people play like more advanced board games that are more in vogue. But, that was still a fun experience, and, all those events at the library. And I'm just so glad that we're able to expand that and bring it to even more folks. So this is all the stuff I love, from the Library of Things to the events to, board games. And this is wonderful. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Carter. I thought you were going to say Magic. I thought you played Magic, the card game. I was going to make fun of you. So I do have a couple of Jack. Welcome. We're so excited to have a sustainability librarian. Shaughnessy, you mentioned that the hiring an environmental or a sustainability librarian was part of the library goals within the climate action playbook. What other, and you had said the library has worked itself into that playbook. What other actions or goals do we have as a library as part of that?
That's a really good question. So what we, in addition to Jack being here, by the way, I want to say amazing things about our ESD department. I did some research, and I really believe, I'm almost 100% sure that Jack is the very first in California, very first public sustainability librarian. So yay us. So in addition, so one of the things that we're going to do is providing more education and preparing, getting the word out about environmental items. One of the things that is important to me is looking at community resilience. So we're trying to kind of get in there as well. We are having an personal emergency preparedness program in March. We'll also be looking at other ways that we can find and help with community resilience, even though we're not specifically in that play. We're trying to make sure that we can support all of the plays that are possible, even if we're not specifically mentioned in them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's mainly, our goals are mainly around programs and communication outreach.
Yep.
Okay, great. I love the idea of sustainable skills. Because I think when people talk about sustainability, we always think about recycling and reusing, and the skill I think is really important. So I was curious, and I know like you had used the soldering as a workshop, as a program, as an example, and the repair cafe. I feel I'm hoping, and you had said there are going to be more youth programs. I'm hoping that there will be more youth programs built around skills, because I really can't believe that if we can get them young and they understand that they can do more. And I love the art-based programs because they're easy. But if we can get kids to realize what they can do at a younger age, it's going to just be part of something they assume they can do versus something that they feel like I'm in high school or I'm in college and now I have to learn how to do this.
Yeah, and that's something where it's been just a delight to work with youth services and to continue to work with them. Mr. Nick is very excited about Library of Things and being able to help kids grow. And that's part of our charge, is to make sure that people are interested and that we're giving them those skills, whether they're little people or grown-up people.
Right.
We want to help foster that.
And then Jack, this may be too early because you've only been with us a month, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Since you're in charge of the Library of Things and thinking about how we build that out, how are you thinking? What are your priorities in terms of like items that build skills, for example, or items that we just don't want people to buy that they're going to use once? How are you thinking about that, and how are you prioritizing?
Yes, thank you. We're always trying to reach out to the community and see what they actually want. And also I'm reaching out to my own colleagues and see what they know, because they obviously know the community better than I do. But for example, I would have assumed that this collection that we have, the home improvement items, would have been really popular. That's not really the case. And so for me, I say, do we need more of that? It's balancing whether we need more of something or do we need to program or outreach with it to say, how do we promote this item more so that people are more inclined to be more hands-on in their home? So that's the ongoing battle that I'm, discovering, is that how do I get the actual pulse of the community and actually get to know them quite well. So we do have a Library of Things survey being put out, I believe by the end of this week. A few of my colleagues and I created that, and there will be a QR code at all the desks at the library, and it should be available online on the website as well. And it's essentially asking if they've used the Library of Things before, what has been their experience, what do they want more of, what hasn't worked well. So for me, that's incredibly helpful, because that will provide some structure and again, some acknowledgement about what people actually want. Because, I could sit at my desk all day talking about solar generators, but if no one really cares about using those, then we're spending money just to spend money. So definitely an ongoing situation. And I will, I'm certainly up to the challenge. Hopefully it goes well. So yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Great, thank you. And then one final question. Shaughnessy, you had mentioned that we have a $500,000 grant for electrification at
Yes.
the New Branch Library. And I know this is kind of a not happy question. Is that federal funding? And what happens if for some reason federal grants don't come through? What happens?
It is funded by Silicon Valley Green Energy.
Oh, good.
So I do not believe that will be an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Silicon Valley Clean Energy.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Silicon Valley Clean Energy, SVCE.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for a great presentation. We really enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing the new programs. And again, welcome, Jack. Thanks. So we will move on to oral communication. This is now the public's opportunity to address the board on topics not listed on tonight's agenda and presentation items. The section is limited to 15 minutes and may be extended or continued after the public hearing's general business section of the meeting. Individuals may only speak once during oral communications. This board meeting is a limited public forum, and the board can regulate the time, place, and manner of speech. Speaker comments during oral communications must be limited to matters within the board's authority, which is known as the board's subject matter jurisdiction. If a speaker's comments are outside the board's subject matter jurisdiction, the presiding officer will rule the speaker out of order. This allows the board to conduct its business in a reasonably efficient manner and protects the rights of other speakers. A speaker will not be ruled out of order because of disagreement with the content of their speech. Please submit a speaker card to the recording officer, raise your digital hand now, or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. I will call on members of public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak.
We have no members of the public, either in person or online, wishing to speak at this time.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close oral communications, and we'll go ahead and open public comment on the consent calendar items. Please submit a speaker card to the recording officer, raise your digital hand now, or dial *9 on a telephone to indicate you wish to speak. I will call on members of the public participating in person first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will have 3 minutes to speak.
We have no members of the public, either in person or online, wishing to speak at this time.
Thank you. I'll close public comment, and I'll now ask for a motion from my colleagues to approve the consent calendar item 25-0259 to approve the Board of Library Trustees meeting minutes of January 6th, 2025.
I move, excuse me, I move to approve the Board of Library Trustee minutes of January 6, 2025 as submitted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion to approve the minutes.
Is there any discussion or advocacy on the motion? No. Recording officer, please conduct a roll call vote.
Yeah. Chair Wing,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jetaconda,
Yes.
Board Member Hugh.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. So the next portion of the agenda is for oral reports and announcements by board members and staff to share information. Do board members have any non-agenda items or comments? So I have one question because I'm fixated currently on grants and federally funded grants. So just laying that out. I'm not expecting an answer, but I'm curious because I know the library has a lot of grants that we use to fund different programs, a lot of the children's programs especially. What I'd be interested in understanding, perhaps in a future meeting, is what grants the library currently have that are federally funded, and which programs would be affected if for some reason federal funding were cut. Assuming like maybe, hopefully they're funded and for the rest of the year, but what if they're cut in the future? And do we have any other potential sources of funding that might cover those? I'm just a little obsessed lately.
Fair. I have been thinking about this myself. Currently, the library has no federally funded grants. In the past, when we have had federally funded grants, they have passed through from the California State Library. We will be looking at potentially applying for grants with a deadline of March. However, if we do not get them, there are possibilities that we're looking for. Potentially, one of the grants that I'm seeking is for possibly looking at ham radio programming. And so we would be looking at the amateur radio clubs to look at funding there and partnering with them.
Yeah, Shaughnessy brings up a good point that, a lot of the grant funding that comes to us through the state is passed through funds that originally start at the federal level through the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And so it is something that we're, tracking very closely to see what the future of IMLS and funding will be. This, of course, is something we look at every year because, we know that budgets at the federal and state level and how those monies pass through and get to us at the local level are always in question, regardless of what administration, is in power. So that's something we look at very carefully, and we think about as we look at see what kind of grants we will apply for in the future, and so that's something we will be looking at and considering. So we're watching closely, and I think there is some concern about what is going to happen with IMLS funding this year and how that will affect funding through the State Library of California.
Okay, thank you. Does staff have any non-agenda items or comments?
We do. It is February, and that means that I'm going to bombard you with a few more really exciting programs that we got coming up. February, of course, is Black History Month, and we really enjoy celebrating that. We've got a little bit of an interesting theme to some of our Black History Month programs this year. We're featuring a couple famous, or actually, I would say not famous enough, maybe, Black inventors in some of our children's programs. So tomorrow, we're actually going to be featuring the story of William Kamkwamba, who was, as a boy, actually figured out how to build a windmill in his community and harness wind power. And so we're actually going to talk about the story of William and also give our kids an opportunity to build a windmill in tomorrow's craft program. We also have some artistic programs coming up. Salt painted masks coming up later this week on Thursday. And then later in the month, we're going to have a concert featuring Soul for Kids, which is a local Bay Area band who tours around, definitely does the library circuit, but they're going to perform some of the, some kid favorites, but with a little soul on the side. That's on February 21st in the morning. And then finally, traffic lights. So another inventor, Garrett Morgan, like that name, is actually famous for inventing the 3-position traffic light. And again, little less known inventor, but very important nonetheless. And so we're going to be featuring a traffic light craft program on Monday, February 24th. And then for adults, one program of note for this month is we're going to be screening the film Fruitvale Station, which of course is about the BART tragedy at Fruitvale Station. So that will be featured on February 16th. In the program room. So we're looking forward to those programs, and that sort of STEM or STEAM element we talked about before, that it seems to be running throughout our programs, and really we know is a big highlight for our community.
And I just have a few comments. So I wasn't able to fully attend the meeting last month, so thanks to Vice Mayor Sell for sitting in. But I'll be here for the rest of the first 6 months of the year. And I just wanted to say, it's like I appreciate the library and especially the Board of Trustees. It's important work that you're doing. We spent the evening, why I'm late tonight, finding the next applicant or the next person that will be sitting next to you. So before your next meeting, council will be choosing someone to fill in for Councilmember Chang, who left to join our council. But I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. If you always have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, the rest of council. Your questions about funding, definitely it is first and foremost from our standpoint, whether or not it's the library, whether or not it's NOVA, other programs that we're doing, a portion of them are sometimes federally funded, and we're closely tracking that from a city standpoint, as well understood, to make sure that we're meeting reporting responsibilities, as well as if there's any questions about funding, making sure that we find alternative resources, much like Silicon Valley Clean Energy in the previous item. We do have grants, other grants available from that standpoint, and trying to make sure that we do everything that our residents are wanting us to do. So keeping that first and foremost in our mind. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll look forward to having you for the next 6 months. So with that, the meeting is adjourned at 8:07, and I'd like to thank everyone for your participation in tonight's meeting. Night.